Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to start a new series on revision of Combined Science Paper 2 that was written in June 2025. We are going to cover section A in this video. So besides the YouTube, I also have a WhatsApp channel where I post maths and science quizzes. You can follow me on that WhatsApp channel for awesome revisions. So let us dive straight into the questions. In section A, the candidates are required to answer all the questions in the spaces provided on the question paper. So we are going to answer all the questions from number 1 up to number 6. Number 1A is reading. State N2 functions of water in the body. So functions of water in the body, it plays very important roles. It helps in regulation of body temperature. It also helps in transportation of nutrients, oxygen, and waste products. Water is very important as it aids in digestion and absorption of nutrients. These are some of the functions of water. The question was just requiring candidates to give N2 of the functions. So we can now proceed to part B. Fig 1.1 shows a graph of daily energy requirements for two groups of people. So we are having the male office worker is using 15,000 joules per day and the male builder is using 20,000 joules per day. So with the reference to Fig 1.1, we are required to explain the difference in energy requirements for a male office worker and a male builder. So if we check on our graph, this is showing that the male builder with 20,000 joules per day, he has higher energetic requirements than the male office worker with 15,000 joules per day. This difference can be attributed by their physical activity level. The builders, they engage in manual labor, which requires more physical energy expenditure compared to office work, and also construction work involves more strenuous activities like lifting, carrying, and physical labor. This is going to increase the energy needs. So that is what we are going to explain on B part 1. And then we need to proceed to B part 2. We are required to identify any other consideration that can be made for a diet of different people. So the question is just requiring us to give any other consideration, but I'm going to give main considerations since we are doing our revision. So first we need to look at the age. You'll see that the energy requirements for a newly born baby is different from the food that is going to be required by a toddler, is different from the food that is going to be needed by a 100-year-old man or a woman. And we also need to look at the sex. The energy requirements for female is different from the energy requirements for male. We look at the health status, for example, those who are under diabetes and also hypertension, they have certain requirements on their diet. We also need to look at the lifestyle. The athletes need different energy requirements than the office worker. We also need to look at the food allergies or intolerances. Someone may be having allergic to nuts, allergic to rice, allergic to any other food, right? So these are some of the consideration. We also need to look at the cultural or personal preferences. Some are vegetarian who doesn't eat meat, and others, they go to churches where they are not allowed to take certain foods, for example, pork. So these are some of the consideration that can be made for a diet of different people. And then part C, we are required to state N2 effects of malnutrition. So malnutrition affects every system in the body, and it results in increased vulnerability to illness, increased complications, and in extreme cases, it can even lead to death. So that was all about number 1, that was in June 2025. We can now proceed to number 2. It was a question on the male reproductive systems. So number 2A, name the part of the male reproductive system that carries the sperm to the urethra. So the correct answer is the sperm duct. Another name for the sperm duct is the vas deferens. So the sperm duct play a very important role in transporting the sperms from the epididymis to the ejaculatory ducts, which then lead to the urethra. So the correct answer on number 2A is the sperm duct. And then part B, we are required to state the function of the epididymis. So the role of the epididymis in the storage of sperms. And then part C, give 2 functions of testes. So the functions of testes, they are involved in sperm production. They are the ones that produces the sperms, and also they are involved in the testosterone production. This is a male sex hormone which regulates the male reproductive development and characteristics. So when we are giving the functions of testes, we need to talk about the sperm production and also the testosterone production. Let us proceed to part D. In part D, we are required to name one part of male reproductive system that produces the seminal fluid. So the seminal vesicles are the ones that produces the seminal fluid. And then on part E, describe and explain the effect of gonorrhea on the part named in A. So we named that A is the sperm duct. We need to describe and explain the effect of gonorrhea on the sperm duct. So gonorrhea can cause the inflammation and the scarring in the sperm duct, potentially leading to blockage, that is preventing sperm from passing through, and also it can result in infertility or making it difficult to conceive. So these are some of the effects of gonorrhea on the sperm duct. So that was all about the biology questions in section A. We can now proceed to the chemistry questions in section A. Number 3, the table 3.1 shows the properties of subatomic particles. So we are required to complete the table 3.1. We need to give the position of electrons. Electrons, they are going to be located in the atomic shells. And then we are required to give the mass of neutrons. The mass of neutrons is 1. And then the charge of proton is positive. So for you to get the 3 marks, you need to say electrons, they are in atomic shells, and then the mass of neutron is 1, the charge of proton is positive. And then we need to proceed to part B. The oxygen element exists as either oxygen atom A or B. Atom A has a proton number of 8 and a mass number of 16, whilst atom B has a proton number of 8 and a mass number of 18. We are required to state the name used to describe the oxygen atoms A and B. So these are known as the isotopes. The isotopes, they have same proton number but different mass numbers. And then part 2, calculate the number of neutrons in atom B. We are given that atom B has a proton number of 8 and a mass number of 18. So if we are calculating the number of neutrons, the formula is mass number minus proton number. So we are going to say 18 minus 8 in order to get 10 neutrons. And then write the electronic configuration of atom A. We are given that atom A has a proton number of 8. So you need to know that the number of protons and the number of electrons, they are equal in a neutral atom, right? So here, the number of electrons, they are 8. So when we are writing the electronic configuration, first shell is going to be completed with 2 electrons, and then the second shell is going to have 6, so that if we say 2 plus 6, we are going to get a total of 8 electrons. So the electronic configuration of atom A is 2, 6. And then we need now to proceed to number 4. Fig 4.1 shows the apparatus that are used in the electrolysis of water. We are required to define the term electrolysis. So electrolysis is a chemical process where electric current is used to decompose a compound into its constituent elements. For example, let's say if we decompose the lead bromide, we are going to get the lead ions and also the bromine ions. And then we need to proceed to part B. Name N1 materials that can be used to make electrodes. So we can use the graphite carbon, we can use the copper, the noble metals, for example, gold and platinum. And then part C, we are required to identify gas M. So this was a battery question. Why? Because on our power source, they didn't mention that this is the positive terminal and this is the negative terminal, so that we can know the cathode and anode. But we can find the gas M by naming it hydrogen. M is having high level of gas, right, compared to another gas. The another gas is having high level of water. So when electrolysis of water occurs, water is going to be decomposed into hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio of 2:1. So more gas is collected at the cathode. The volume of hydrogen is twice than at the anode. So that is why we are saying that gas M is hydrogen. And then next, we are required to explain why water is acidified. So water is acidified to increase its electrical conductivity. Pure water has very few ions, making it a pure conductor of electricity. So if we add small amount of acid, for example, sulfuric acid, this is going to provide ion that can carry electrical charge, allowing the electrolysis process to proceed efficiently. And then on part E, describe with the aid of an equation the reaction that takes place at X. So we are going to write 2H plus 2 electrons in order to give us hydrogen. This represents the reduction of hydrogen ions to form hydrogen gas. So that was all about the chemistry questions in section A. We can now proceed to number 5, which is the first question in physics questions, right? So fig 1 shows a carburetor. Identify the parts labeled A and B. So A is known as the air filter or air cleaner, while list B is known as the jet or fuel discharge nozzle. And then on part 2, state the effect of blockage of part B. So the blockage of part B, it is going to restrict the fuel delivery, causing the engine to run poorly. Part B, state N2 differences between the intake and exhaust strokes of petrol engine. So we can give our differences looking at the purposes. The purpose of the intake stroke is to fill the cylinder with fresh air mixture, whilst the function of the exhaust stroke is to expel the burnt gases from the cylinder. So you can get 1 mark by giving the differences in their purposes. And then we can also give the differences looking at the operation. Like the intake stroke, the piston is going to move downwards, creating a vacuum in the cylinder. And then in the exhaust stroke, the piston moves upwards, pushing exhaust gases out of the cylinder. So you get the 2nd mark by giving the difference in their operation. And then we can also talk about the valves. In the intake stroke, the intake valve is open, whilst the exhaust valve is closed. And then in the exhaust stroke, the exhaust valve is the one that is going to be open, whilst the intake valve is going to be closed. So these are some of the differences between intake and exhaust strokes of petrol engine. And then on part C, state N2 advantages of modern fuel engines over old models. So the advantages of new engines is that they have improved fuel efficiency, they have increased power performance, reduced emission, enhanced reliability and durability, reduced noise, and also better integration with the technology. And then number 6A, state N2 measuring instruments that are used in the experiment to verify the Ohm's law. So the instruments that we need a voltmeter in order to measure the voltage. We need an ammeter to measure the current. We also need a resistor to measure the resistance. And then part B, a resistor of 5 ohms is connected in a circuit. A current of 0.5 amperes flows in the circuit. Calculate the voltage across the resistor. So you get your 1st mark by giving the correct formula. Voltage is equal to resistance times current. And then the 2nd mark, you need to carry out the calculation. 0.5 times 5, we are going to get 2.5. And then the last mark is on correct answer and also correct units. So you need to say the correct answer is 2.5 volts. So we are done for the questions that were in section A. Thank you so much for following me on this channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos. I also have a WhatsApp class which I run every day for combined science from 7 to 8 p.m. I charge $10 per month if you want to join the awesome revisions. We are done with the syllabus and we are now doing the revisions of past exam question papers. We are doing the mock exams. I mark and we revise. Thank you. Stay tuned. I will upload the section B tomorrow.